Hello, everyone. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Emily.
And we're the hosts of the I Don't Think So podcast. Each episode, we discuss a different story, theory, or mystery and decide if we think it's believable or if we really don't think so.
Here at the I Don't Think So podcast, we are affiliated with Flurry Sports, and we present our favorite theories, mysteries, and stories on your favorite place to listen to podcasts every single Wednesday. So if you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a like and a share, and go ahead and follow us on all of our socials at I Don't Think So _EH. Or you can always check out our YouTube page at IDTS Conspiracies, which is very similar to our email. No, it's not. It's actually, our email is EmilyAndHannah _IDTS. Or that might be wrong. It's on our X, if you would like. It's pinned. Twitter, X. Who knows what it's going to be called sooner rather than later. But, so if you want to email us, you can always email us too.
Send us suggestions of what type of episodes you would like to see in the month of June.
You can always DM us on things too. I'm sure we check those.
Yeah. Well, we are very quickly ending and wrapping up the month of May.
Ooh.
Which is crazy. I think we can have one more true crime episode.
Yeah, and month of May was a little... No, it wasn't. Never mind.
It was 5 weeks.
Well, the first was...
Wednesday.
A Wednesday. Oh.
So we'll have 5 true crime episodes.
I thought it was a Thursday, so I was like, no, we'll only have 4. So many true crime, which feels fitting for us.
Yeah, I do like it. And I actually found this one based on like an old Dateline episode I watched.
Oh, I love Dateline.
Because I love Dateline, and this story is just crazy. Also, the most plain man. It was very hard to like research because his name is literally John Smith.
Ooh. So you're like, murder of John Smith, and like thousands probably came up because they were like, help identify this man, and you're like, no.
And so this is the Dateline episode called Chameleon. And it's because this guy was such a manipulative
person,
crazy guy.
Oh, fun.
That he's been connected, they believe, to 3 different murders, but they also think he could have completed like way more.
See, those are always my favorite when they're like, we know for sure 3, but he could have done 82, and it's like, what? How do we get that many more?
It's insane. So I'm going to kind of explain to you 2 of his crimes of his wives and kind of lead you into some information that they're still trying to track him on today.
Be like a Henry VIII situation.
Well, he's John David Smith III.
Knew it.
Born 1950. And the story kind of begins taking place of him being investigated because he ends up marrying this woman in Florida, and they move away, and she ends up like getting hurt, and then she supposedly said like she was going to go stay with her sister back in Florida, even though she's on crutches because she had surgery on her hip, but went missing, and he never reported her missing. They have no idea where she went. And her crime's still being investigated today. But to give you a little background about this guy.
Let's just call a spade a spade. He probably killed her.
Exactly. So, with his first wife, Janice Hartman, Smith married her back in June of 1970. And as they began to start their lives together, the marriage immediately was troubled. Janice's brother said Smith was super abusive from the start. And Hartman ended up leaving Smith in 1974, only 4 years after they're married, and returning to Ohio, where she'd previously lived. And she had intended to divorce him and move to Ohio.
Okay.
The divorce decree was posted in November of 1974, and a few days later, she told her family she was going away for a while and was last seen on November 17th of 1974.
That's not good.
Soon after her last appearance or witnessing, John Smith's brother Michael observed him building a narrow box out of plywood that he claimed was for Janice's belongings that had been left at his house. And he saw this, he thought it was weird, and then, like, never brought it up to him again.
Why? Why aren't you like, well, dude, cardboard's, like, free.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you, especially back in that day, you could go anywhere. You could get that woman a refrigerator box from Sears.
Exactly.
Do you remember that? You remember?
Yes.
Sorry. This is like a side tangent of a side tangent. We used to do this probably problematic thing where it was like supposed to be raising awareness for homeless, people experiencing homelessness. And for a night, we would get cardboard boxes.
I never did it. No.
Are you sure?
I remember doing it. They did it at the Lions Park, but I never participated.
I thought for sure you participated. Anyways, my brother and I participated. And you would have to go get like refrigerator boxes from Sears or whatever, where they were selling refrigerators, and you would decorate them, and you would sleep
in a box.
In a box. Yeah, that's super problem. I hope they don't do that anymore. Now that looking back on it, we did like raise money and awareness and like extend money back to shelters, but it wasn't. I think what it was trying to do missed the mark by a mile.
Yeah, not really aware.
No.
Anyways,
so sorry. Keep going.
So he'd been making this plywood box, claiming it was going to be for her belongings, and then they never brought it up again. 5 years later, in 1979, Michael and John's grandfather discovered the box in the garage and called Michael, John's brother, who found a dismembered corpse with rainbow hair that he believed to be Janice Hartman. The grandfather told John and said, like, you need to come and take this box away. So he called the
murderer! And I was like, yeah, you need to move the person.
Neither the brother nor the grandfather informed the local law enforcement. And Hartman's remains were discovered in a makeshift coffin found in 1980 by highway workers in the Indiana field. However, they didn't know, they couldn't identify who it was because it was just left on the side of the road.
Right.
So this skeleton was referred to as like the lady in the box, remaining unidentified until 2000, later on, after Smith's second alleged murder of his second wife, when they were able to connect him back to this. Smith then married his second wife, Betty Fran Gladden Smith, in March of 1990. She was confined to her home by an injury, but she ended up disappearing from West Windsor in New Jersey on October 4th, 1991. As they were trying to investigate the disappearance of Betty, her sister and her other family were super concerned about her well-being because supposedly, like, she'd been missing. They ended up getting contacted by police, and police were like, it says that she was supposed to be coming to you, and they're like, she never said she was coming down to visit us. And she was like on crutches, things like that. They were living on the second floor condo. Like, there's no way she could have gotten down by herself, but supposedly she left a note saying she was leaving for a few weeks, and John's just like, oh.
My wife, who can't get down a flight of stairs, is just somehow going to a family's place.
So as they're investigating John for the disappearance of his second wife, Betty, this is when they start to get in contact with his brother and his other family members.
And his brother's like, oh,
and this is when his brother comes forward about discovering this box in the garage.
Sucks. Brother and grandpa, you suck.
Well, he at least comes forward later.
Okay, when police were like, hey, another person's gone. And he's like, oh, shit. I really thought it was
He should have come forward later, but it did help with the conviction of him later on, which is good. We're not going to shit on him yet because he's at least coming forward when he didn't have to.
Well, I guess if he would have come forward sooner, one other woman would be alive. Possibly two. Sounds like.
Yes. But they're trying to find any sort of missing pieces so that they can bring some answers to this woman's family.
All right. Thanks, John's brother.
So,
Michael.
Michael ended up reaching out to the FBI about his concerns.
Okay.
And brought forward this evidence of how he'd seen this box, thinking that he'd seen this remains in it. And so the FBI pretty much went on a hunt to try to find
John.
this box.
Oh.
Because at this point it wasn't connected. They didn't know the connection of it. This is when they put out a widespread investigation to the entire country of did anyone ever find a box of remains, which they were later able to find in Indiana.
Right.
Because that's where John had left the box. She'd gone missing from Ohio. They weren't able to ever track it because he dumped it in Indiana. And so with Michael coming forward, they were able to close this investigation of having this box being found missing and later rule out who the lady in the box was, being his previous wife. Yeah. They were able to exhume it, do DNA testing, and connect it to being Janice Hartman. Later on, Smith was arrested in October of 2000 in Escondido, California, where he was living with his third wife.
Okay.
He was convicted, and so as this lady in New Jersey goes missing, they're never able to find her body.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he ends up moving to California, marrying a new woman. And as they're trying to put all these pieces together, the wife finds out that he's supposedly murdered these two people, and her daughter ends up having to move in to protect her because he refused to leave. And they're kind of in this point where they didn't have enough evidence to arrest him, but also she
was in danger.
So as he's living there, her daughter ends up moving in to try to protect him. He ended up finally getting arrested and convicted in July of 2001 of Janice Hartman's murder and sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. Janice Hartman's family also was able to sue him for damages and things like that.
Okay.
However, there's still no charges brought forth for him for Betty's murder because there's no evidence.
Right, and her body was never found.
Her body was never found. They were never able to find any evidence of what happened, but they believe that he murdered her as well. We later find out in November 28th of 2019 that they have been trying to indict him for Betty Gladden Smith's murder, but in 2021 the judge ruled that there was no evidence and they had to drop all charges for it.
Right, it's that no body, no crime kind of scenario.
Yeah. They also, as they were investigating his house, found skeletal remains in his one of his lockers or things like that, but they were never able to identify who these remains belonged to. So this guy is just going around marrying these women and murdering them, and they have no idea how he was able to, how many people it is, who it was, and because his name is so plain, he's able to move across state lines, going from Ohio to Florida to New Jersey to California, and he's super hard to track. So
I'm sure, John Smith, not the name that pops out to you ever.
No.
Also, it's I think you and I had this conversation not that long ago. You meet people who if they had an ounce of charisma, would be scary. I mean, they're scary, but you can spot them. They don't hide well.
No.
This guy sounds to be married that many times.
Yeah. All of the previous family members described him as super nice, super charming. They had no concerns with them taking because think about his second wife, who they haven't been able to find. They got married in Florida, and she moved to New Jersey with him. So she's moving across the country
with an injury that leaves her very vulnerable.
And they have no way of no.
Wild. I can't even get married once.
I can't imagine being around a person that you find so charming and you're so blind to all of these ways that they can manipulate you, to then find out that imagine being his third wife and finding out his previous two wives are dead.
Can you imagine being that daughter?
And still having to come home because the FBI reached out to her without him knowing. So she knows, but he doesn't know.
Well, thank God he doesn't know she wouldn't have made it. Also, can you imagine, like, calling, like, imagine your mom. Granted, your parents, your dad isn't that great guy. But imagine your mom calls you and is like, I just got a phone call from the FBI. Your dad's, like, killed people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried for my safety, but I can't leave. Like, whatever, constraints, money constraints, time constraints.
Like, come stay with me.
You need to come stay with me. I would be like, Mama, I love you. I will pay for your hotel.
We will change your identity.
I will do so many things. I really don't want to move in with you. So that daughter's got some stones too. Because
I just hear about like true crime things too, where it's like you end up finding out like your parent was like a murderer a decade ago or something,
and they've always been like a good parent.
Mm-hmm.
That must be awful.
Or like I always love the true crime things where it's like you find out later, like, oh, my dad was a Nazi or something. Right. Have you ever seen those where it's like they're Nazi hunters and these people have been living like normal lives in the US for like 25 years and all of a sudden they got married and kids and then they come out and arrest them because they ended up actually being a Nazi. like Jesus.
Oh,
how can you like be so?
How can you be so good at being two people?
That's scary.
Or more than one person. Because like someone who is capable of killing, most likely, 2 of his wives and 1 other woman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how he's able to then move on and be this like charismatic and nice and great guy. And it sounds like in his first marriage was abusive.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he was abusive, obviously, in these relationships too. But it's like, how are you capable of being?
When I think about like his brother and stuff, I'm sure he feared him so. Not that it makes it okay. He should have come forward earlier, but he feared him so much.
Oh, I'm sure.
And his grandfather feared him so much that they were more like they were just like paralyzed in fear.
Or I'm sure there's that piece of right if he is that 2-person personality, right, where he is so nice, so kind, so caring, so compassionate. Seems like he'll do anything for you. Very charismatic, got a lot of charm, and all of a sudden you find a body in a box. And I'm sure your first instinct is what the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And then if like you call him and he's like whatever he's able to spin, I'm sure somehow you're sitting there being like, there's no way.
No, especially it's 5 years after they've been divorced.
Right.
That's what gets me about the story. Is like they were divorced for 5 years and all of a sudden this body in a box shows up in the garage.
Yeah. That to me is like, have you not gone into your garage in the last 5 years? Or is he just like dropping? Like
I think he was like moving it.
So it has to stay. Did you just bury it? I don't know enough. Clearly, I haven't killed anybody.
No,
I've watched a lot of true crime, but I've never, made
participated.
But again, it feels like more work and higher risk of being found out if you're not just like burying it.
Well, I think that just shows his psychopathic tendencies where he wanted to continue to revisit his like victim.
Also, that her hair was still there and still colored. Girl, what dye do you use?
I don't know. That's crazy.
My dye's gone.
Fades.
It fades.
Yeah.
Maybe because my hair still grows. But, yikes. Yeesh. That is a creepy one.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
it's always the plain ones you gotta watch out for.
It's always. Well, then I was trying to think. I was like, is it all John? Like it's like Jane Doe and John Smith, and I was like, no, it's John Doe. So like if they find a body that's unidentified.
Oh, sure. And Jane Doe.
Yeah. And then I was like, Jane Smith doesn't quite have the same ring. Also a plain name. If I met someone named Jane. Also, if you met someone named John Smith, I'd be like, that's a lie.
I feel like you just can't do that to someone.
Like I just don't believe you. I feel like you're lying about your name. I don't know why you're lying about your name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I feel like you're yanking my chain. I feel like there's so many last names I hate to have.
At this point, you don't want something like too generic.
No.
But also, this is gonna be our side tangent.
Perfect. Love side tangents.
Are you on like baby name TikTok?
Sometimes. I go on and then I come off.
Do you know Francesca that was on Too Hot to Handle.
Yes.
Did you watch her baby name video?
No.
Oh my god.
Who'd you have a baby with?
She's pregnant. I don't know who her baby daddy is.
Okay.
But she did one of those like baby names we love, but we're not using.
And it was like
dilapidated.
concrete.
It's all nouns.
Oh.
It's all like she was like at first. Some of the first ones, she's like, I really like month names, and I'm like, month names are not terrible. She's like, but everyone uses like August, so I want to name my baby November or February.
I'm thinking like May or like
May,
June,
August are all fine. Like I've heard all of those as names.
Yeah,
but she's September,
no,
November. Like
it.
she liked the burr, and she liked February. She's like, I want to use, and then she also liked day names, and I'm like, I've heard like Wednesday, or like I've heard of a Sunday, and they called them like Sunny.
Okay,
but she liked like Thursday or Tuesday. This is the beginning. These are her best choices. She then gets into other things, and her top name that she liked that they're not using is Afternoon.
That's awful. Why would you do that? I bet your baby's gonna be named Morning.
Morning's better than Afternoon.
Morning is better than Afternoon.
And she goes, and we can call her like Af or Tur or Noonie. And I'm like, Afternoon. Can you imagine?
No.
Like because she goes, yeah, like people like to use noun names, like they're doing like Birdie or whatever, or Goldie. And I'm like, I like those names. I think they're cute. I think both Birdie and Goldie that are popular now are very much going to be like a sentiment of like this time period. Like because it used to be either like an old name, but now they're so popular, like they've made it in the top 1,000 names that like we're going to have like just how we went through that phase of like Everly, Anna Lee, Bentley, like the Lee ending sounds. That's very like 2016 to 2018 or 2014 to 2018 or whatever. Now the like Goldie, Birdie, Sunny,
Susie,
Ruby, like those are
IEY noise.
Yes, like those names are going to be very much of this generation. She goes like, so if they can do that, like I could name my baby Afternoon. And I'm like, no, you cannot.
You know, I think there's some countries, it might be Germany and it might be wrong, but they have like literally you have to like get your name approved.
Yes.
Because that's rude. It's not nice. Your poor child.
Like I'm thinking about this as like a school teacher, okay?
At least you wouldn't mispronounce it.
And you get your list of names. And if I saw Afternoon, I'd be like, I don't want to talk to you. Like I'll talk to the kid. I don't want to talk to your parents because they sound like the biggest idiots I've ever met in my entire life, and I've never even met them. Afternoon.
It's just such a.
It's not a name. It's not a name.
It's not a name. It's.
And some of the other ones, I'll have to like. We can share them.
I've always thought of like Michael Jackson's son Blanket,
but that's not his name. That's his nickname.
Oh, thank God! I thought that was his like legal name.
No.
And I thought like.
Now, do I think you should name your or call your kid Blanket? No.
I thought his genuine like God-given on his birth certificate was Blanket, and I was like, that's awful to do to a child.
Stupid.
That is awful to do to a person.
And there's some names now where I'm like, they're very trendy, and it's like I don't hate them, but they're not like my favorite thing.
Mm-hmm. The weekday, I'm not even a fan of the weekday names.
No.
Like I'm not a fan of the Wednesdays. I'm not a fan of the Sunday or Sunny. I just think you're stretching. Like you have so many options. When
she started with month, I'm like, oh, August, May,
June.
That's fine. February.
We're gonna call her
November. Yeah, and she goes November, and we can call her Nova. And like, if you like the name Nova, call her Nova.
Name her Nova, and you could say like we thought her full name would be November, but we liked the nickname. Like,
Mhm.
especially if you're, okay, this is also my gripe with names. If you are always going to call your child by a nickname, they come out and it's a nickname.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you not just name your child a nickname?
Right.
Like, if your child, I'm going to use, I don't even know what to use. Let's use the Maxwell or Maximilian. You know, I really don't love the name Maximilian, but I like the name Max. So I named him Maximilian to call him Max. Fucking name him Max.
Max. Yeah.
Because then, like, their identity is the name Max,
Mm-hmm.
not Maximilian. Just like, it doesn't matter if you're like, I'm just going to call them Max. Or if my name was like Emily Lynn or some shit,
Mm-hmm.
and then my whole life I went by Emily. Just name me Emily.
Or do middle name Lynn. That's fine. You can still have Emily Lynn, but you don't need to make it like
The first name.
Yeah. I hate that too when they like jam pack a bunch of names as the front as the Anna Lee Grace. And I'm like, no, just Anna. And then you can do Lee Grace. You can do double middle name. I don't hate a double middle name.
I don't love
I don't hate it. I like it better than naming a first name Anna Lee Grace. Anna Lee Grace, Heaven Smith. And it's like, Jesus Christ. Like, just do Anna or Anna Lee, even. And then whatever. But, like, I will take 3 middle names over a compound first name.
Over really a lot first name. Right? Where it's like, Zachary, who does our podcast,
Mm-hmm.
still gets called Zachary sometimes, but usually goes by Zach.
Yeah.
So that point, fine. If he came out the womb and your parents were like, not a huge fan of the name Zachary, but I like the name Zach, so I'm going to name him Zachary so I can call him Zach, just fine.
Well, it's one thing if you like the long name, but you still call him the short name.
Correct.
I think that's
also
fine.
nicknames happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, Emily is not a long name. I get called Em and Emmy all the time,
Mhm.
and that's fine. It is not because my parents didn't like the name Emily. It's because
You just talk fast and
you talk fast and you shorten things.
Mhm.
Everyone gets a nickname, usually.
Yeah.
Some are weirder than others. Some are longer than the name, and I'm always like, what?
That gets me too. Also, this is another pet peeve. Perfect. Just changing from names to, well, it's still pet. It's absolutely not. I hate when parents give their child a nickname that's like an inside joke.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus.
We're moving on your couch. It sounds, I can do it again if you want me to.
Like, when parents give their kid a nickname, that's an inside joke
amongst the family.
that makes no sense, and then introduce their child
as that nickname.
as the nickname. For example, like, we have a kid at school who goes by, like, a Disney character name because they liked that Disney character as a child. And I'm like, that's fucking stupid.
I also
Call your kid your name.
Well, and like when you're introducing your child, introduce them by their name.
Yeah.
And if like your kid's friends hear you call them that nickname at home and they pick it up, cool. But like, I think it's odd to be like, you know, your child's name is like Philip, but he really liked John Deere growing up, so you call him John.
That's stupid.
And then you're like, this is John. And they're like, no, his name's Philip. He just liked John Deere. Ha ha. Or like,
well, this is like he has a different name, but then he goes by Mater, like Till Mater. And I'm like, Mater? Mater? You can't call him Mater for the rest of his life because he liked Till Mater when he was 3. He doesn't like cars anymore.
He's out of that phase. Well, and also like,
and also your name, and the parent was like, you're putting Mater on his name tag.
No, I'm not.
And I'm like, what the H? I can't.
You're not in my classroom. He's gonna go by his fucking name because it's his fucking name.
I just cannot.
If you didn't like your child's name, that's your fault.
Yeah. I don't know.
Should have named him Mater when he came out, and I would have been mad about that too.
Oh, Mater without the.
Oh, that's hilarious. Also, kids' interests change.
That's what I'm saying. He liked it when he was 3. And now he's 9 and doesn't like cars anymore. And you're still calling him Mater.
Mighty Joe Young was my favorite movie from the age of like 2 to 4. I watched it probably 3 times a day if I could. I'd restart it. Also, what a sad movie for a child to like. But whatever. If you start calling me like Mighty Joe or like Joe Young.
Well, that's the thing too, where it's like you can like something and like not get called that.
It doesn't need to be your identity now.
No.
You can just like things.
Like imagine, because that's a parenting choice. For you to see your 3-year-old who cannot express, like, I would like to be called blah, 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 more than likely. So you're like, my 3-year-old really likes Polly Pocket. So I'm going to call her Polly. No. Like, imagine how confusing that would be as a 3-year-old. So I think it got to the point where, like, he didn't know what his name was. Like, he went to kindergarten and didn't know what his name was.
Jesus. Or it's like, I know my mom uses this kind of thing. She'll, like, praise. She'll call me Molly Moo.
Mm-hmm.
Not genuinely a nickname.
No, it's just like
just like a weird turn of
like
phrase.
instead of saying kid or like whatever.
And I liked cows, so what are you gonna do?
Or like buddy or something.
Right. But she would never introduce me as that because again, it was just like a term of endearment.
Yeah.
You wouldn't call it like say I call
instead
you
of saying
sweetie.
Yes.
I'm not gonna introduce you as sweetie. I'm not gonna introduce you as
that was
honey.
one of the other names that Francesca liked was like sweetie or lovey. I'm like, lovey is not a name. I'm gonna have to look up that TikTok for you because it's the thing is she is confident.
She's like,
she is sitting there and she's just like, I like really feminine love name, blah 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 blah. And I'm
name her fucking Aphrodite then.
I hate it.
Call her Af. Then you can still call her Af. Sorry.
Afternoon.
Okay, perfect. Oh, well, that's all we have this week for you. We will be back next week in a new month.
No, it'll still be
May. It won't be. I lied. It'll still be May.
So we'll give you one more true crime podcast, and if you have any terrible names you'd like to DM us,
I'll take them, and then I'll make fun of them.
I will make fun of anyone.
I'll make fun of my own. Bring it on.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. But we will see you all next week.
Bye.